y todavía continúan muchos desaparecidos. Y el régimen comunista de Cuba oculta y manipula la información relacionada con los hechos. Las manifestaciones no fueron financiadas, instigadas y organizadas por nadie. Fue el pueblo que de forma espontánea salió a la protesta pública como derecho legítimo. El estallido social fue el resultado de más de 60 años de tiranía y opresión, más de 60 años de sometimiento del pueblo al abandono y la exclusión, más de 60 años de engaño y manipulación. El embargo de Estados Unidos contra el régimen comunista de Cuba no es el causante del estallido social del 11 de julio. El embargo no se puede levantar y no se pueden aprobar medidas que al final beneficien al opresor. El régimen comunista de Cuba comercia con el mundo. El régimen comunista de Cuba exporta recursos humanos de la salud y obtiene miles de millones de dólares como resultado de esta forma de esclavitud moderna. El régimen comunista desvía recursos del pueblo para otras funciones como son entrenamiento y equipamiento de la fuerza represiva. El régimen comunista de Cuba usa los recursos del pueblo para financiar la subversión contra gobiernos democráticamente electos o para mantener a gobiernos afines a sus intereses. El régimen comunista desde hace muchos años compra alimentos y medicinas en el mercado americano sin limitación y además son alimentos y medicinas baratos. Si saben ustedes por qué no los compran en el mercado americano la totalidad o los alimentos y medicinas que necesita el pueblo cubano, no los compra porque el día que lo haga se le cae la careta ante el pueblo. Durante las manifestaciones pacíficas y espontáneas del 11 de julio y después del 11 de julio, opositores pacíficos cubanos, miembros de la resistencia interna, salieron a la calle junto al pueblo y hay varios detenidos en el centro de detención de la seguridad del Estado y la policía y otros encarcelados, acusados de falsos delitos de desorden público, resistencia, desacato y atentado. Estados Unidos tiene el compromiso moral y político de apoyar a los luchadores contra las dictaduras. Tiene el compromiso de apoyar a los pueblos cuando luchan por su libertad. El pueblo cubano salió a luchar por su libertad desarmado e indefenso y fue violentamente reprimido por fuerzas militares y paramilitares equipadas y entrenadas. Por tanto, aunque sé que la libertad de Cuba depende de los cubanos, los Estados Unidos tienen compromiso moral y ético de apoyar la lucha del pueblo de Cuba por su libertad y de no abandonarlo a su suerte. Primero Fidel Castro, después Raúl Castro, ahora Díaz-Canel. Todos son los máximos responsables de la tragedia de los cubanos. Finalmente, en Nueva York, ubicada en el río Hudson, se encuentra un símbolo universal, un símbolo de esperanza. Ese símbolo, ubicado en una isla que se llama Isla de la Libertad, es la estatua de la libertad. ¡Qué casualidad! Cuba es una isla que lleva más de 60 años luchando por su libertad, patria y vida. Libertad para todos los presos políticos cubanos.
So, it's very clear that the President of the United States needs to start listening to the Cuban people and not to the apologists either on the side of the Cuban people or you're on the side of the regime. I do need to mention, and the leader, by the way, this group that he created is inclusive. And I want to thank the leader, also the two senators, Senator Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, for their amazing leadership and solidarity. So thank you all. With that, if that's right, sir. Yes. Rosa Maria Payá of Cuba decide, we know who she is. As Mr. Green said, somebody who unfortunately knows all too well the barbares of the regime. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Congressman Maria Salar, leader, governor, lieutenant governor, congresswomen and congressmen. Thank you so much, dear friends. I'm very humbled to be in the house of the Brigada 2506, among heroes, among Cuban heroes that have been fighting for the same thing that the Cuban people were fighting in the streets and are still fighting in the streets. My father was killed 9 years ago on the hands of that regime. Used to say that the people of Cuba and the people of the United States, we want to be free and we want to be friends. Free and friends, that's our goal. And I'm very humble and very glad of calling you American patriots, friends of the Cuban people. And I also want to mention my appreciation towards the Senate that just approved a bill to rename the street in front of the embassy usurpated by the dictators right now in DC on behalf of my father. Now it's on the hands of the Congress to change the acts of those criminals on behalf of a martyr that was my father as well. Hundreds of thousands of Cubans went into the streets on July 11th, demanding one single thing: freedom and the end of the dictatorship. That's probably the best news that the Cuban people have had in 62 years. They have been brutalized by that regime. They have been shot down with real bullets. They have been dead. They have been injuries. There are thousands. We estimate that there are thousands of detained and missing people. While we talk, there are young folks that are being tortured. They beat them till they scream "Viva Díaz-Canel" and "Viva Fidel." That's the kind of torture that they are implementing right now inside the island. And in this point, more than 3 weeks after everything started, the Biden administration is yet to act. President Biden has said that he supports the clarion call for freedom of the Cuban people, and I do believe so, and I do appreciate Leader McCarthy words that this effort needs to be a bipartisan effort, but personalist policy. And the Biden administration has been filling key positions with advocates of appeasement and engagement with that regime. So we really hope and ask you to help us to guarantee that the persons taking decisions on the Cuban nation are advocates of freedom and not advocates of appeasement. In front of you, you have 4 actions that we think are very specific and that the Biden administration can take. And I will refer only to 2 of them because my friends here are going to go on them and another very specific actions too. But I think that the most important, the real message is that the Cuban people, we are prepared for a transition process toward democracy, and that needs to be the goal of the Biden administration. not asking for the end of the embargo, we're asking for the end of the dictatorship. That was the that this administration can and should be doing is helping to create the world reaction that the Cuban people need to achieve the most important victory of freedom of the 21st century. This is the first half, which is the freedom of Cuba. And with the freedom of Cuba, the democratic stability of the entire hemisphere and the national security of this country. The Biden administration could help to build a coalition of nations and international effort to denounce the legitimacy of that regime and help the Cuban people recover their sovereignty. Please remember, no negotiations with the regime. Please remember, we are not element and we are asking repeatedly the Biden administration should not be negotiating with the Cuban regime. First, the liberation of the political prisoners, the access to all individual liberties and civil rights, and respect for human rights and the transition process that the Cuban people is demanding. Of course, the Biden administration could also help us to rise the cost of the repression and stop the impunity of the regime, provide connection to the Cuban people, and to close my remarks, the Biden administration and the world should help us to protect civilians' lives in Cuba. But the Cuban regime poses a major threat to the national security of many countries in the region and the national security of this country. We don't need to repeat that the Cuban regime and the Cuban state security, it is the gateway of China, of Russia, of Iran to this hemisphere. Actually, Chinese officials have been training the elite troops of the armed forces in Cuba, the same killers that were shutting down young people in the streets. Actually, Russia has already told Díaz-Canel and Raúl Castro to use all the measures within the Cuban law, and the Cuban law includes, in the Article 4 of that communist constitution, includes the use of weapons against dissidents, against anyone that wants to change that system. Well, they say, and they are doing it, and the international community and the administration is still not doing it to stop that. To have tolerated for 62 years now a communist totalitarian dictatorship in the island of Cuba has caused the loss of the democracy in Venezuela, the impunity of the repression in Nicaragua, the instability that we have seen in the governments of the region, and the major threats to the national security of many countries in this hemisphere. So the Cuban regime needs to listen. A warning from this administration about the serious consequences, for instance, of provoking a massive exodus and threatening the national security of this country, and of continuing with the brutal repression of the protesters. All actions within international law should be on the table to protect civilian lives in Cuba and to protect the national security of this country and this hemisphere. Thank you so much.
Cubano, he's been a strong voice in the struggle for free Cuba. He's also the coordinator of the Assembly for Cuban Resistance, and that's a network of activists. He has contacts within the island. A dear friend, again, somebody who I bring in my head.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Leader McCarthy, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Nunez, Congressman Rogers Solar, and all the members of Congress here present for your support to the Cuban people. I'm especially proud of our Cuban American members of Congress. They've been nonstop advocating for changing Cuba even more to the July 11th.
Tired, long drive to my car.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. Well, the thing is, when I texted him earlier about like maybe to confirm, he had texted me back. La está con Daniel Fernández, él entrevista.
Gracias. Un espacio aquí.
Feeding back for CNN.
We will see.
That makes sense.
Sorry. So it's, I mean, whatever truth they put in there, it's just keep it. And government, yes, Lord. Whoever talks. I'm sure I'm perfectly fine.
So, oh, you're saying like a one-on-one kind of. Well, we got that. Yeah, that is, you probably see a one-on-one on next to it. Yeah, they told me that.
Pero fuera absurda, acá la dice la sobrina, dice se pasa bien todo. Así no son. Ya sabemos que hay una She's in the car by herself. She's by herself. I understand you're yes, very old. Yeah, I'll call you if there's one-on-one.
Was done right all the options, all the limitations.
It's a single use.
We do need internet. We're limited on communication inside the island right now. So basically, database, we do not know exactly how many disappears and missing people we have. So we really need an internet bypassing the government administration, and the United States has the technology to establish it. And the last thing is, U.S. has been recognized always for being a country that helps other countries to establish peace. Why not do the same thing with your nearest neighbor? The infiltration from communists is possible right now. It is. We have professors from Cuba that are communists representing the Cuban communist regime, giving classes right now in universities inside of New York. That's how far communists have gone inside the base of the Democratic Party. So this is my request, and I hope, and I'm really appreciating this opportunity. Thank you so much, and I'm very proud of being a Cuban. Thank you.
Well, thank you, first of all, for being here, for taking the time to listen to us. This is really mean the world for us, okay? Right now, I have 10 possible steps that maybe we can take. I know that some politicians doesn't want to hear about intervention. They want to hear about that a lot because they are killing our people. They are killing our young people, our Black people. And unfortunately, this movement and a lot of Democrats that they support the violent riots of Black Lives Matter, they don't care about Cuban lives. And that's my first demand, I don't know, as a favor for you to tell them in Congress that Cuban lives matter too and should matter to them, right? Because our protests were peaceful. The violence didn't begin in Cuba until the so-called president that nobody voted for him, he called for a civil war. So I think this is a genocide. And I would like to ask you to declare the Cuban dictatorship or propose to declare the Cuban dictatorship a genocidal regime for its systemic oppression and repeated murder of its citizens for their political ideals for over 62 years, and recently after the protests that are happening right now in the state of Cuba. I will ask us, if you don't want to intervene, if they don't want to intervene, we can maybe establish a real blockade, a naval one, an aerial one, like in South Africa. I know that they can tell you this is radical. Yes, it's radical. They are killing our people. They're like it happened in South Africa. So we deserve no less than that. And the other thing is we need urgent humanitarian intervention because the people has no medical assistance, no medical care. They are trying to sell the doctors to all the world. We have no doctors for our people. We need help. That help is really needed. The chips, the hospital chips that we had in New York, if we didn't have to use, we really need them in Cuba. And the other thing I want to say, and I'm going to, is that we need to investigate these organizations that are supporting with federal grants to the communist regime. Socialism is the system that is killing Cuba right now. We need to fight them, and we cannot fund them with our taxes. And I have a list I would like to send later to your emails. I have a list of these organizations and people like Carlos Lazo, the professor like Arturo Lopez Levy, which is the cousin from Café of Luis Alberto Rodriguez Lopez Calleja, which is the capo in Cuba and is a sanctioned person in here. And a lot of another like People's Forum, who received $50 million last year in grants, and our Cuban organization received almost that, all of them. So this is my request. I hope you listen to everybody. Thank you very much.
I'm going to speak Spanish because I need to express myself. Desde que esto ocurrió, desde el 11 de julio, he recibido muchos mensajes de seguidores que siguen dentro de Cuba. Y lo primero que ellos me estaban preguntando era qué posibilidades hay de ayudarlos a ellos que están completamente desarmados, peleando contra tropas armadas. Yo estoy aquí porque tengo amigos que ahora mismo están viviendo. En ese mismo día ellos salieron a protestar por su libertad y ahora no pueden estar dentro de sus casas, están en lugares escondidos. Y lo mínimo que nosotros los cubanos podemos hacer aquí es levantar la voz por ellos. Yo voy a ser breve. Yo simplemente quisiera saber qué solución hay para todo esto. Realmente lo que quisiera es de que si no pueden hacer nada, por favor, que nos den a los cubanos que estamos aquí, que quieren hacer por su familia, por sus hermanos, por sus amigos, luchar. Lo único que nosotros necesitamos es, si no nos van a ayudar, déjenos. Hay muchos cubanos que ahora mismo están sufriendo lo que está sucediendo en Cuba. A mí me duele muchísimo. Las personas que me preguntan a diario, hermano, estamos cansados, necesitamos ayuda, nos están matando, nos están raptando. Y nosotros aquí atamos de pies y manos. Necesitamos una ayuda, necesitamos una intervención, necesitamos que nos dejen. El día de mañana, cuando sigan asesinando madres, padres, hijos, hermanos, muchos cubanos no van a soportar y van a ir a pelear por eso. Este es el momento de actuar, este es el momento de hacer las cosas como verdaderamente debemos hacerlas. No podemos cerrar los ojos y dejar que el tiempo pase por cada segundo. En este momento estamos haciendo historia, podemos hacer un cambio y erradicando el comunismo en Cuba, lo vamos a hacer en Latinoamérica completa. Este es el momento de actuar. Y por favor, say English. I've been in this country for 21 years, so I studied here. I went to school here in Miami. And so this is what's going on in our situation right now is this. We all got families in Cuba. We got mothers, sisters, brothers, we even got kids. All of us are here. And I'm in the same position. This is something that we touched up when we went to Washington. We explained to a lot of people. It's going to come to a point, it's going to get to a point where the people here are going to wake up, is going to say enough is enough. And it's going to have a catastrophe in the middle of the sea. Of Cuba wanting to go to Cubans, they lead national, United States citizens, wanting to go to Cuba to fight. And if the government doesn't support in any other way, without intervention, humanitarian intervention, what's going to happen is we're going to have a catastrophe in the middle of the sea. And so my question to the government, power right now is, what are they waiting for? That's my question, because I've been sitting in this country for 21 years, okay? And I've been hearing the same thing, and when the Cuban people are ready to ask for freedom, we, the United States of America, are going to intervene and we're going to give it to them. Well, they went out to the street in the 11th on the 12th, and they've been going out since then. They're still going out. I got friends of mine that are hiding. I got friends of mine that are dead that I grew up with in my childhood, and the United States is doing nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. So what is it going to happen? What does it take for the United States to intervene? Is it going to be a catastrophe in the sea? Is the United States Navy going to intervene and say you cannot go? Because if I keep seeing my family, my people dying from different cases, I'm going to say one day enough is enough. So my question is, what is it done? I don't want to hear about, they talk about 100 tanks. They're going to lift up the embargo, they're going to lift up this, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. That's not the solution. We need the military to intervene. If it's not that kind of nation, you in charge. And the United States has done it for a long time. We've been going to all the countries around the world, free countries. So what are we wanting 90 miles away from the shores? Communism is a cancer. And before you know it, if we don't do something about this, we might find it on our doorsteps. So it's time to eradicate. So I'm going to say to President Biden, you take the message back to him. Are you going to be another JFK? Or are you going to be the man that's going to free the world from communism? That's my question.
Bueno, generalmente dicen que yo soy el político del grupo, pero hoy voy a ser ingeniero informático. Se habla mucho de poder internet para que los cubanos puedan expresarse libremente en las calles y el mundo pueda ver lo que está haciendo el cubano y el régimen no pueda callar lo que sucede. Bueno, hay un paralelismo histórico en lo que pasó a finales de los 80 en Europa del Este, donde no había internet, pero gracias a los Estados Unidos y a los aliados había algo que se llamaba Radio Europa. Y el mundo pudo seguir las manifestaciones en Polonia, en República Checa, y darle fuerza y apoyo a esos manifestantes. Por eso no los mataron y por eso lograron hacer su cambio pacífico. Si no existiera esa decisión del mundo libre de acompañar a esos pueblos, hoy seguirían bajo el comunismo. Hoy tenemos algo mejor que el internet. Y hay una forma barata, directa, de poder hacer llegar por lo menos miles de cubanos en la capital internet. No con globos, no con barcos, no con aviones. Ya Estados Unidos está en Cuba. Los ingenieros informáticos, colegas míos de Cuba, me dicen que si Estados Unidos pone encima de la embajada norteamericana un vegano profesional que se comunica a una cuenta de satélite y que emite una señal en 2.4 GHz que puede ser captada por miles de nanorepetidores que tenemos a lo largo y ancho de toda la capital y que pueden llegar por una red clandestina que hemos preparado durante años y que llega a más de 7 provincias del país. Si nos dan la fuente para tomar internet, nosotros hacemos el resto del trabajo y podemos emitir una señal en la misma frecuencia que transmite Texas y que no bloquea Texas, pero que Texas no puede bloquear y que podía dar acceso libre a miles de cubanos en 24 horas. A esos mismos que hoy, cuando salen a protestar, bajan el catálogo, como decimos en internet, y nos quedamos a ciegas. Se los llevan, los golpean, los matan y ni siquiera podemos ver eso. Es algo concreto y barato. Lo segundo, bueno, Generalmente cuando tenemos un amigo en la vida personal o en las naciones, nos gusta que nos acompañen en una fiesta, pero los amigos en realidad están para asistir en los momentos más difíciles. Si te pasa algo, si estás enfermo, si tu vida peligra, tú esperas que tus amigos estén allí. Yo considero que el pueblo cubano será por siglos uno de los mejores amigos que tendrá el pueblo norteamericano. Creo que es inmoral a 90 millas no hacer lo que haría un buen amigo si otro pueblo está muriendo. Por eso estamos acá. Hay dos mensajes muy claros. Uno hacia el pueblo cubano. Podemos hacer algún gesto de buena voluntad. Por ejemplo, yo quiero sugerir que el barco hospital de los Estados Unidos que asistió en Nueva York, que asistió en otros países, Estados Unidos ofrezca poner ese barco en las costas cubanas y que pueda de alguna manera hacer un gesto de buena voluntad para que miles de pacientes que pueden morir hoy en los hospitales de Cuba, especialmente a los que se han contagiado de COVID en las propias manifestaciones y mueren en la cárcel, puedan ser asistidos por una atención de calidad. Ese sería un gesto de buena voluntad del pueblo de Estados Unidos al pueblo cubano. Pero como existe la zanahoria y el martillo, yo quiero la zanahoria para el pueblo y el martillo para los dictadores. Yo creo que hay que empezar a hablar de qué pasará después de esa protesta. Y me gustaría dar un mensaje de los Estados Unidos en que asistirá al pueblo de Cuba para hacer justicia. Ese mensaje creo que pudiera limitar la capacidad de los dictadores en seguir sintiendo en el fango de la represión. Recordar los juicios de Nuremberg y teniendo en cuenta que los genocidas que están en Cuba tienen muertos en el
Thank you for being here today. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Primero le tenemos que dar las gracias al líder republicano de la Cámara. Porque en estos momentos, cuando lo que se requiere es acción, lo que vemos en la Casa Blanca es todo lo opuesto. Lo que vemos en la Casa Blanca es reuniones con los que abogan y han estado abogando gran parte por los intereses del pueblo. Después de una semana del pueblo cubano en la calle, el presidente Biden anuncia un grupo para hablar sobre es importante que se escuche al pueblo cubano, que se escuche a lo que están pidiendo y solicitando los valientes cubanos en la calle. Y el exilio cubano no diría no solamente una cosa, no aspirinas, no medicinas, están pidiendo dos remesas, están pidiendo libertad. Y este es el momento de solidaridad con ese pueblo, no de negociaciones con el régimen, no de buscar formas de darle divisas a ese régimen. Hasta ahora, porque vamos a estar claros, aquí o se está del lado del pueblo y de la causa de la libertad, o se está del lado del régimen. Hasta ahora, el presidente Biden parece que se ha puesto del lado de los intereses del régimen. Por eso estamos tan agradecidos al líder republicano de la Cámara y a estos que están aquí por su liderazgo, por no estar confundido. Este líder republicano de la Cámara ha mandado múltiples cartas a través del mundo, embajadores, jefes de Estado, solicitando acción y solidaridad. Le ha pedido reunirse con el presidente de los Estados Unidos. Y hasta ahora nada. Así que mientras que algunos titubean, o peor, gracias a McCarthy, gracias a nuestros colegas aquí del Congreso, por su solidaridad, por no estar confundido y por estar escuchando al pueblo, al exilio cubano, no a los que han dedicado vidas y décadas en buscar formas de ayudar a ese reino. Very quickly, thank you all for being here today. Particularly want to thank my colleagues in Congress for being here, and for Kevin McCarthy, Republican leader. While the administration is studying and looking and reviewing. And even when the Cubans were in the streets after a week, he announces what? A group to study ways to increase remittances into the island. By the way, something that the regime has been for a while has been taking place. And while the president meets and listens to those who in many cases have years of advocacy for the interests of the regimes, for unilateral lifting of sanctions. That's why we're so grateful to Leader McCarthy for creating this group, for leading. He has sent letters to people around the world demanding solidarity. He's actually sent a letter to the president demanding a meeting with the president to deal with this urgent, important issue. It's urgent and important to the people of Cuba, to this entire hemisphere, but also to the national security interests of the United States. So while the administration is at best confused, or at worst listening to the allies of the Castro regime, we are so grateful to the leadership of Kevin McCarthy and of our colleagues in Congress. With that, let me start by introducing somebody who needs no introduction. He served the United States honorably in the military. He served in the House of Representatives. He's always been a transparent voice for freedom. He's been a clear voice on socialism and Marxism and communism. He is the great governor of the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis.
Well, thanks, Mario, and pleasure serving with you. I saw Liliana this year. Liliana, we used to work together as well. And you always knew when there was fights for freedom, the people in South Florida were always going to be on the side of those seeking to fight authoritarian regimes and to fight Marxism and Leninism. And we're here at the Bay of Pigs veterans. 60 years ago, 6 decades, they knew what was at stake, and they put their lives on the line to be able to free Cuba. They understood what a Marxist dictatorship would mean, and it meant exactly what they understood: decades of repression and misery that has dominated that island. We are now in a situation, maybe for the first time since then, where you have a real shot to have change, to have freedom sweep the island. You have people who are being very brave that are out on the knowing the risks that they're facing, and we have had many of these people have disappeared. We don't know where they've gone. The regime is absolutely cracking down, and so these are times where people who support freedom need to stand together, and we need to stand with the people of Cuba. A free Cuba would be in the interest of the United States of America. I mean, if you want influence of the Communist Party of China in the Western Hemisphere and Russia, then support the regime because they want every nefarious influence around the world comes through there. If you want no Chinese influence, you don't want Russian influence, then you should want a free Cuba. If you want to have a good Western Hemisphere and not have all these problems in places like Venezuela and Nicaragua, then you should want to see a change in the regime in Havana, because Havana has for decades spawned all kinds of disruptions and oppression throughout the Western Hemisphere. So we have an opportunity as a country. Certainly the state of Florida stands unequivocally with the people of Cuba. We have an opportunity, though, to make a difference. And it requires leadership from the White House. It requires the president to show and take tangible steps to stay with the people of Cuba. Don't do things that are going to bolster the regime. Don't do remittances. Don't help Venezuela. Don't do any of those things. Stand with these freedom fighters. I called immediately for internet to be restored, that have the United States take the lead. That has not happened yet. There's a bunch of different ways that could possibly be happening. And what I've told people is, look, if the U.S. government won't do it, if we can do it in Florida, if there's a company that will do it, we'll work to do it. I mean, this is really, really important. It really is a no-brainer for something that we should want to see. So I thank everybody who's been in this fight. I think this morning we had a couple different events and heard some really heartbreaking stories about what is happening over there. And now's the time to be able to stand up. So I want to thank the House of Representatives member, Leader McCarthy, all the other representatives for coming down here and listening firsthand. I think they were already on the same page anyways, but I think their resolve is probably going to be strengthened now to
administration, I have one question for him. What is taking so long? You heard from our governor here in Florida. We stand ready and committed to helping the Cuban people for their quest for freedom. I'm the daughter of Cuban exiles, so my story is similar to so many other stories here. We've seen families ripped apart, dreams unfulfilled, generations of individuals that never got to visit their homelands, people that have been passed without ever being able to step foot on that island 90 miles from our shores. And so for me, it's personal. For many people in this room, it's personal. And for these representatives that are from all parts of this country, I believe that it's personal for them too. And so I'm honored to be here with so many great leaders, lending their voice for the cause of freedom. Estamos aquí hoy con los miembros del Congreso de diferentes partes del país, con miembros de los oficiales electos y del Estado, unidos en una voz y por una causa. La causa, libertad. Hemos visto desde el 11 de julio, el pueblo cubano se ha tirado para la calle en una manera que nunca hemos visto. Y estamos unidos con ellos. Y vamos a seguir insistiendo que esta administración busque la manera de ayudar al pueblo cubano, que traiga la libertad, que traiga la democracia. No podemos esperar. Y le tengo solo una pregunta a la administración de Biden. ¿Por qué se está demorando? ¿Por qué se está demorando? Necesitamos el apoyo de los Estados Unidos, necesitamos seguir insistiendo que el pueblo cubano puede llegar a sus sueños de libertad. Como hija de miembros exiliados de Cuba, les digo que mi cuento es igual que el de tantas personas aquí. Mi historia es igual que tantas personas aquí. Que hemos visto familias que no se han podido ver. Hemos visto sueños sin poder realizar. Hemos visto generaciones de personas que nunca han podido regresar a su país. Y ahora es el momento de cambiar esa historia para tantos cubanos que desesperadamente están buscando libertad. Les doy las gracias de nuevo al líder McCarthy, a los miembros del Congreso, y les pido que sigan unidos con nosotros, porque no podemos dejar este momento pasar sin traer de una manera que hemos esperado tanto, la libertad para el pueblo cubano. Muchas gracias.
As I mentioned, while the Biden administration is at best confused or at worst listening to those who are the apologists for the regime, Leader McCarthy has been clear from day one, not only now, from day one. He's been leading. He's been leading the effort. He is standing firm. He is continuing the pressure. So it is a privilege now to introduce the Republican leader of the United States House of Representatives, soon to be the Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy. I want to thank Governor, I want to thank Lieutenant Governor, most importantly, I want to thank the members. This is a small group of advisory working on the idea of freedom. This is our second day, listening, sitting down with individuals, hearing unbelievable stories. Now, standing here in a museum that knew more than 60 years ago. Brigade of 2506 knew exactly what they were fighting for. The fight still stays on today. The oppression. You cannot be the leader of the free world to believe what happened on July 11th, 2013 is about COVID. It's about freedom. You cannot be the leader of the free world for those who crave freedom and you sit silent. You cannot be the leader of the free world if you want to feed socialism and communism. It's not the country of who we are. That's not what we stand for. We watch time and again the failure of communism, the oppression of socialism. You cannot be the leader of the free world where people are gathered, put into prison and never heard from all ages. You cannot be the leader of the free world if you want to see freedom, not just in Cuba, but throughout Latin America. This is the place to be. This is the way to fight it. And you cannot be the Speaker of the House if you adjourn the House without even bringing a resolution to
tell the freedom fighters in Cuba that we stand with you. And we will not back down. That's why we're here. And I will tell you, the testimony we have heard is so much. Just last night, I heard from one. He talked of his mother and father, those who gave him life in Cuba today. He told us that they had COVID. But he did not ask for medicine. He said, do not send medicine. Send freedom. That is what this fight's about. This is what this fight was about more than 60 years ago. This is a moment, this is a movement. But again, where is the president? Where is Speaker of the House? Why are you staying silent when those crave the freedom of our country? A beacon of what we stand for. Conceived in liberty and dedicated that all are equal. How can you stay quiet when you know what is going on? How can you lead when you know the time is now? How can you not join with? This should not be a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an issue about America, about freedom, and the future of the world. This is 90 miles away from us. This is a tip, and the spear, and the head, what feeds the socialism throughout Latin America. It means more oppression. It means no freedom. This president would request a meeting. Why? If you can't come up with ideas, we have them. We can tell you the solutions. We will stand with you if you will act, but we will not sit back to your silence to those who pray for you. We will lead the charge. That's why we're here. For that, I would like to bring up Rosa Maria, another individual that has given us tremendous testimony, passion, and we proudly stand behind. And will not quit until freedom.
Muchas gracias, líder McCarthy, al gobernador Representante, gobernadora, a los queridos amigos congresistas, gracias, congresista Díaz Balán, y todos los congresistas que nos acompañan hoy. También los que hemos dado testimonio hace unos minutos, hablando del tiempo programa, John Suárez, Marta Beatriz Ferrer, que lleva 25 días sin saber si su papá está vivo o está muerto. Y esa es la realidad de cientos de personas en este momento, de cientos de familias cubanas. El 11 de julio, el pueblo cubano salió a la calle con una sola demanda: libertad. Y esa es la demanda que esperamos que la comunidad internacional y el gobierno de los Estados Unidos apoyen. Ese mismo pueblo ha sido cruelmente, violentamente brutalizado por las fuerzas represivas del régimen cubano, que han disparado con balas reales contra jóvenes en las calles desarmados y pidiendo exclusivamente libertad. Hay muertos, hay heridos, hay cientos de desaparecidos, miles han sido detenidos, torturados. El presidente Biden ha dicho que apoya la clara demanda de libertad del pueblo cubano, pero todavía no ha actuado para apoyarla a la altura de las circunstancias. Nosotros esperamos que los amigos del Congreso envíen el mensaje y sean el empujón que necesitan los Estados Unidos y el mundo para ponerse de parte del pueblo cubano. El presidente de los Estados Unidos puede y debe liderar los esfuerzos internacionales para que entre las naciones del mundo democrático, denuncie la ilegitimidad del régimen cubano y acompañe al pueblo cubano a recuperar su soberanía. Los Estados Unidos pueden y deben levantar el precio de la represión, de esa que es capaz de disparar con balas reales contra los jóvenes cubanos en las calles. Los Estados Unidos puede y debe estar implementando cada opción disponible para entregar acceso a Internet a los cubanos. Esa conectividad, esas conexiones en este momento pueden salvar vidas y pueden ayudarnos además a conocer todo lo que está ocurriendo en nuestro país, incluido el monitoreo de represión. tolerado por 62 años una dictadura comunista en la isla de Cuba, le ha costado a nuestro hemisferio el colapso de la democracia venezolana, la impunidad de la represión en Nicaragua, los increíbles niveles de inestabilidad democrática que hemos visto en toda la región y, por supuesto, la amenaza a la seguridad nacional de los Estados Unidos que ellos representan. El presidente Biden, la comunidad internacional, los pueblos de las Américas tienen hoy la oportunidad y el gran desafío de apoyar al pueblo cubano a conseguir la victoria, probablemente la victoria más importante de la primera mitad del siglo XXI, que es la libertad de Cuba y con ella la estabilidad democrática de toda la región. I thank you so much, Leader McCarthy, and all the congressmen and congresswomen here with me. Thank you to the Governor DeSantis and Lieutenant Governor Núñez for this opportunity. President Biden has said that he supports and he stands with the clarion call for freedom of the Cuban people, but this administration is yet to act in that regard. The Cuban people went to the streets, hundreds of thousands of them, with one single demand: freedom. Freedom and the end of the dictatorship. Not the end of the embargo, no remittances, but freedom. And that's the demand that we hope that the President of the United States and the rest of the democracies of the world support. We are asking this administration to lead an international effort to denounce the illegitimacy of the regime that shut down young people and unarmed protesters in the streets, and to help the Cuban people to recover their sovereignty. This administration can help us to rise the cost of the repression inside the island, to end the impunity of the regime, can also help the Cuban people to get connected and provide internet access in a moment in which that connection could actually save lives. The President of the United States, the democracies of our hemisphere, the European Union, the international community, they have the opportunity today to, together with the Cuban people, achieve what we think is, could be, the most important victory of the first half of the 21st century, which is the freedom of Cuba. And with the freedom of Cuba, the freedom of Venezuela, the freedom of Nicaragua, and the democratic stability of the whole hemisphere. Thank you so much.
Need no introduction, but a strong voice for common sense and of talent, but also of freedom in the United Congress, our own Congressman. I appreciate that, and this has been a fact-finding mission by Leader and other members of Congress, and I certainly appreciate my colleagues for coming here. And we've all heard the same thing. We want the people of Cuba, the people here, the exile community, they don't want any negotiations with the government. They don't want any lifting of the embargo. In fact, we want sanctions to be placed on the government. We want to make sure that we can, if we can, restore internet service or something like internet service to the people of Cuba so they can communicate with themselves, and they can communicate with the outside world, so they can show the rest of the world what's actually happening here, the brutality of this regime. We need to strengthen the support for the dissidents inside the island. The people of Cuba and the people here, we're not saying that the Cuban people need food, they need medicine, they need vaccines. No, they need freedom. And it's been very, very clear. One word: freedom. Libertad. That is what the people of Cuba want. That's what the exile community wants. We want the Cuban regime simply, very simply, to leave. Once you leave, then the people of Cuba will have food. They'll have vaccines. They'll have freedom. There won't be any political prisoners. And then you'll have prosperity. All you have to do is get up and leave. But they won't do that. The repression is actually getting worse. They're getting desperate. And the people of Cuba are suffering. And I have to say that I admire the brave people in Cuba that are putting their lives at risk every So any government that treats its people that way has to be deemed illegitimate. No elections for over 60 years. It only keeps control by repressing and oppressing its people through force. There is no way that that can be a legitimate government. So one of the things that I'm going to ask for the president is to declare the government of Cuba to be illegitimate. And actually, Mario Diaz-Balart and I asked some members of the State Department, do you consider the government of Cuba to be legitimate or illegitimate? How many times did you ask? 5 or 6. Okay. They wouldn't answer him. So I gave a crack at it. And I must have asked 5 or 6 times whether the United States government deems the government of Cuba to be legitimate or illegitimate. They would not answer this question. We have to declare the government of Cuba to be illegitimate. Once you do that, then you can't deal with an illegitimate government. You can take steps to liberate the people of Cuba. As many people have already said, this is a matter of national security. The regime in Cuba is responsible for what's happening in Nicaragua, Venezuela, what's about to happen in Peru, what could be happening in Chile, what is happening in Colombia right now, the seeds that are being planted there, and create instability in our own backyard, create more repressive regimes in our hemisphere. It is a matter of national security. So I join everybody here in calling for the president to declare the government of Cuba to be illegitimate, and also to listen to all of the people here, all the people that have been giving testimonies, to the people of Cuba that only want one thing: liberty, freedom. That's what they want. Do not give in to some of your advisors who want a softer hand with Cuba, lifting of sanctions, giving food and all kinds of remittances. People in Cuba are not asking for this. That will only help to prolong the suffering of the Cuban people. So I'm going to say a couple of things in Spanish. Aquí todo el testimonio que hemos escuchado ha sido muy consistente. El pueblo aquí y también el pueblo de Cuba no desea negociaciones con el régimen, no necesitan comida, no están pidiendo por vacunas, no están pidiendo por remesas, están pidiendo por la libertad. La libertad, eso es la única cosa que están pidiendo. Ellos están pidiendo que el régimen se vaya. Y si se va el régimen, entonces van a tener comida, y van a tener dinero, van a tener medicina, van a tener vacunas, todas las cosas, y también, lo más importante, van a tener la libertad. La única cosa que están pidiendo. Por eso que yo le pido al presidente Biden que declara que el gobierno de Cuba comunista es ilegítimo. Ningún gobierno que no ha tenido ningún tipo de acciones en más de 60 años y que además que está gobernando con la represión y con el medio, no es un gobierno legítimo. Y nosotros, los Estados Unidos, no debe tolerar un gobierno ilegítimo en nuestro hemisferio. Y eso es lo que estoy pidiendo al presidente Biden. Le doy muchas gracias a todos mis colegas que están aquí, el líder McCarthy, estuvo aquí también el gobernador. Y ellos saben bien lo que tiene que suceder, lo que tenemos que hacer para la libertad de Cuba, y también que Cuba es una amenaza a la seguridad de los Estados Unidos, lo que está planteando en Nicaragua, en Venezuela, en Perú, en Chile, en Colombia y otras partes de este hemisferio. Por eso estamos pidiendo que el presidente, por favor, tome acción y actúe ahora. Ahora quiero presentar a mi colega de Miami también, la representante María.
Voy a decir pocas palabras en español, después voy a caminar al inglés. Le damos las gracias a Líder McCarthy, un aliado fiel de nosotros. Hemos escuchado por 2 días los atropellos y los problemas que hay, que el régimen castrista está ejerciendo en contra de esos que trataron de salir a las calles y evitar libertad. La conclusión de estos 2 días es que se nos está acabando la paciencia. La paciencia se nos está acabando. Patience is running out.
conectividad y liderazgo. Y no hemos recibido ninguna de las dos. Liderazgo que traiga a la comunidad internacional y que le diga que los Estados Unidos, el bastión de la democracia en el mundo, está con el pueblo cubano. Y segundo, que dé la luz verde para que podamos prender el Internet y que el pueblo cubano decida qué quiere hacer. Y el mensaje al presidente respetuosamente una vez más, lo he dicho en muchas ocasiones como la representante de la ciudad de Miami, que es el corazón del exilio cubano en los Estados Unidos, que si no lo hacen ustedes, lo vamos a hacer nosotros. Nosotros necesitamos darle al pueblo cubano la plataforma para que vuelva a salir a la calle y haga lo que quiera hacer, pero que no se sienta solo y que sepa que el mundo, específicamente los Estados Unidos, están escuchando y dispuestos a ayudar. Ese es el mensaje que salimos de estos 2 días. Quiero presentar a Marta Ferrer. Marta Ferrer, que es la hija de José Daniel Ferrer. Ustedes saben que José Daniel Ferrer posiblemente es el disidente en este momento más importante, porque es el líder de la UNPAC, que es el grupo disidente que tiene más número de disidentes en este, desde el 11 de julio. Está preso, no sabemos dónde está, ni qué tipo de tortura o de brutalidad están haciendo. Esto es lo que los Estados Unidos tienen que escuchar. El pueblo cubano necesita ayuda. I'm going to English now. I thank you very much, Leader McCarthy, for being here with us. You are definitely a patriot. You are a friend, and we will remember you when you are Speaker of the House. This community will be with you, and we are all with you right now. And I thank the rest of my colleagues who are members of Congress that do not necessarily need to be here, but they are because they care about freedom. And my message to the Biden administration is very simple. Patience is running out. I have called you repeatedly with Carlos and Mary. I have sent messages. I have told them respectfully, we want to do this in a bipartisan fashion. But as we do not hear any response, and time is running out, and we've asked President Biden respectfully and say it once again, 2 things: connectivity to internet and leadership. Leadership, we want the president, who is the president of the beacon of hope for the rest of the world, the United States of America, to show and to rally the international community that we want his leadership and that we need for him to be with the people of Cuba. And number 2, the most urgent one, tomorrow morning, connectivity. Because if we have internet, then those people who decided spontaneously on July 11th to go on the streets of Havana because there was a Facebook Live going on, we need to provide those people that same connectivity so they can decide what to do with their lives. It's up to them, whatever they want to do, wherever they want to go, and whatever they want to stream. If you want to stream embargo or vaccines or food or libertad, it's up to them. We're not sending them the script, but we do have to give them the platform so they do not feel alone. And they know that the United States of America and the rest of the world is watching what they're doing, and that they are grabbing their destiny in their hands. So may the Lord help President Biden to understand, because if you do not do it, we will do it from Miami and from the state of Florida. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Muchísimas gracias. Agradecerles por todo el apoyo y la solidaridad con nuestro pueblo. Agradecerle a Kevin McCarthy, a Diambalar, a María Elvira y bueno, a todos. El régimen dictatorial de Raúl Castro y Canel es responsable de las vidas de todos los desaparecidos del 11 de julio. Es el responsable de la vida de mi padre. Perdónenme cuando tengo que hablar de mi padre y de todo lo que está pasando en Cuba. Me da mucho sentimiento. Es el responsable de la vida de mi padre y de todos los desaparecidos, que hoy no sabemos si están vivos, si están muertos, o qué tortura le están haciendo. Mi padre numerosas veces ha sido secuestrado, encarcelado y torturado de varias maneras, como encadenarlo y arrastrarlo por todos los pasillos de la prisión, encadenarlo de manos y pies al sol. Hoy le estamos pidiendo al aire su apoyo, la solidaridad con todos agradecerles por su apoyo, por la solidaridad a todos y pedirles que sigan apoyando para que todos estos valientes cubanos que salieron el 11 de julio puedan salir de la prisión y puedan seguir luchando por la libertad del pueblo.
Michael McCall, the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Michael McCall es republicano de más rango en el Comité de Relaciones Exteriores de la Cámara de Diputados.
Together to Miami. It's been very profound, very inspiring. And thank you to the Miami Cuban delegation. I love the passion. I want to take that back to Washington. You know, we're standing here, very hallowed ground, sacred ground. The freedom fighters 60 years ago, trying to liberate their country from a tyrannical dictator. The President of the United States let them down. Today we have a new generation of freedom fighters in Cuba. Right now, Mr. President, do not let them down. We have to support them. 62 years ago, Castro took over, brought communism, socialism. It didn't work. And just this past July, 11, 12, 13, we saw a spark of liberty, very similar to our Statue of Liberty flame. And that spark will light the free world. I call upon the President, because this is in the interest of all Americans and all Cubans. It is a national security interest. China, Russia, and Iran are in Cuba. They're in our backyard. They're in our hemisphere. The President needs to act. The Speaker needs to bring the Senate resolution to the floor because our own House leadership would not do that. But it's time to put pressure on this regime. Powerful testimony that leadership within the Castro regime is starting to fall, starting to crumble. This is an important moment in time, an important period in history, where we have this opening, this window, and we have to seize it. We need to put a maximum pressure campaign on the regime. We need to sanction the regime. And yes, Carlos, the President needs to call it out and say it's not a legitimate regime. We will not honor it by our State Department. Now is the time. Now is that time in history to act. So I say it's Libertad and Cuba Libre.
From Tennessee has frankly worked his entire life on the cause of freedom. He was one of those who put his name on the dotted line, put his life on the line for the cause of freedom, for the national security interests of the United States, and he's never stopped fighting for the cause. The ranking member, Foreign Affairs Republican ranking member of the Western Hemisphere Parliament.
Thank you, Maria. Mario. Yo hablo, no hablo español, so I'm going to speak in English. Maria's going to teach me Spanish, though. I think that's a deal we've made. It's an honor to be here. Kevin, thank you for asking me to be a part of this task force. As soon-to-be Chairman McCall said, I took an oath at the age of 17 to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, to fight for freedom. And when I stand in a place like this, amongst heroes, the memorabilia of heroes, the pictures of heroes, it is very emotional to me. It is also a tribute to them, but it is also a recognition of the first time the Democrat Party failed the people of Cuba. When you walk in here, that's what it also reminds us of. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you concentrate power into the hands of fewer and fewer people, you get tyranny every time. I know. I've looked Saddam Hussein in the face the night we caught him. Tyranny happens when you concentrate power into the few. And that's what communism and socialism are. And that's why there's silence from the administration right now, because there are so many on their side of the aisle who are enamored with this idea. They wear their Che Guevara t-shirts. They think it's really cool, but you know what? Those people in prisons in Cuba right now, that is not cool. That is what we are defending and fighting for, those people. And as Abraham Lincoln said, the Gettysburg Address, the leader, quoted a line from it earlier. One of the points he makes is, our words today cannot add any honor to the sacrifice of those brave warriors. Our words today cannot add any honor to the father of that young girl who stands right now detained. Probably, who knows what's happening. It is time for the Democrats and the Biden administration to stand up, because the people of Cuba have. God bless our great country, and God bless the people of Cuba.
I said it in here, I've said it before. You know, we talk a lot about the situation on the island or in Venezuela or Nicaragua. There's one person who's here, a new member of Congress, who has never needed an education about communism, about socialism, because she lived it. She was born in that Soviet nightmare. And she lived through that Soviet nightmare. It's a privilege to have her as a colleague in Congress. It's a privilege to have Victoria Spratz here with us today. She gets it. And I hope that the President of the United States is listening. Because you're either on the side of freedom or you're on the side of the regime that represses the people. A person who gets it very clearly is the one you can listen to now. Thank you so much.
So much. It is my great honor to be in this great state of Florida, representing the great state of Indiana. It is my great honor to be here among so many freedom fighters. I just hope for two things. One thing, I hope our young people start paying attention what's happening in the countries like Cuba, what death, misery, and destruction Marxists and socialists brings to the people. I also hope that President Biden wakes up and starts exercising some leadership and stop paying attention to socialists in his own party. And he needs to start protecting the freedoms of the American people and standing for the freedoms with the people around the world. So may God bless the United States of America, and may God bless the people of Cuba. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, leader. Questions? Questions? We'll take some questions.
Yeah, outside of your little clip from speaker, before your if you would, have you spoken to the speaker about the activist? Has she expressed any concern, or is she just kind of running the whole fighting agenda, if you would, what the Biden administration is saying about Cuba?
They're letting Biden lead from behind. They're backing up the idea that Congress just met for 7 weeks. I spoke to the majority leader about let's take some action before this. Even in committee, Maria, talking to the chairman, to bring it up, how can you stay silent when you hear the cries of freedom? See the oppression of people being picked up in streets. Witness today of her own father not knowing where he is. It makes no sense. That's not America. That's not what we stand for. And that's definitely.
Minority Leader, you said that the 1960 revolution created tyranny on the island of Cuba, and I am asking you a question. It's not a Democratic or Republican issue, so why do you oppose the January 6th Commission, sir? Why do you oppose the January 6th Commission, sir? Why do you oppose the
Explain that.
I follow up with a question with Pelosi. Do you have any comment to that question? I will respond to the joke that
we're here talking about freedom, and we're here talking about Spear for Latin America. Our whole focus is on that. We hope everybody can stand together as one. We invited Democrats to join our advisory. There's some who are interested in it. We love it. We'd like to stand with the president, standing with people from Cuba. And now we don't have a president.
Leader McCarthy, I want.
Can you just talk about the internet in terms of members of Congress? It's too much specific, and a lot of these methods have been debunked of ways to basically glean internet into Cuba. Can you just please talk about what is the actual demand or how
Well, I know Maria's been looking at this issue as well. We have Siphon is a application, an app on the phone that about 1 million Cubans have right now to freely and securely communicate both inside and outside of Cuba with their relatives. I think opening communication up is essential. But we're also looking at the idea of these balloons that can bring in internet service. And we're also looking, with that being in the classified space, various internet cable capabilities. But we are very committed to opening up the internet.
Can I address that too? Let me address that too, to the ranking member. I've had classified briefings. We can't talk about a lot of things, but here's what I can tell you. There's not one option, or two options, or three options. There are multiple options available to provide communications for the Cubans throughout the island. Some of those options have been used in other places, by the way. So, let's debunk it right now. We live in a world where technology has revolutionized the world, right? There are multiple options available to the President of the United States. Some are more expansive than others to provide so that the Cubans can communicate. And so anybody who says that the options are not available have to, by the way, be living in a different planet, not understand technology, number one. And number two, clearly don't understand the capabilities of the United States of America that has multiple options to get it done.
Remember why you want to do this. You want the freedom of speech. You want individuals who are those in Cuba craving freedom to understand we're with them. We also want to save those in Cuba because let the world see what is going on. Make it harder for them to pick somebody up and put him in prison. Make it harder to pick the young men up and try to make them fight. Let the world see it so the world can join together with what's happening.
I second what Mary is saying. I second, what Mary is saying. That has been my quest. That's all I talk about. And I second what Mary Diaz already said. We have spoken personally with the companies that are willing to provide that service. I'm not a techie. I do not know how to do it, but I do know that the Biden administration and the White House tomorrow morning will say, yes, go ahead, we'll have internet tomorrow afternoon. It's easy, it's not that expensive, and if the Biden administration does not want to pay for it, I am sure that the Cuban American community in the United States and abroad will put the cash down to do it. It's just that we are trying to be respectful. We are going to the White House. We are telling them all we want you to do is just say yes, so then the Cuban people will know that once a Texas that has Chinese surveillance equipment turns off the internet, another source will provide it, and for them then to do whatever thing they want to. They want to go on the streets forever and ever, it's up to them. But they need to know that they're not alone. So the technology is there. We know where it is. The private companies that we have spoken with are willing to do it. All we're waiting for is for the federal government to say yes. And that's what I was saying. Time is running out, and we are not going to wait much more. Because it's been 62 years, and her father, she is the perfect example. We cannot sit by, just stand by, while they're committing the brutality to those people. We will speak up, but we want the administration to join us. That would be the right thing and the most decent and humane thing to do from the Democratic administration.
Congresista en español, y por favor, si han presentado algún plan para la migración.
Can you tell me, would you support a military intervention in Cuba if, these calls for the internet don't work, or
There are other actions to take to bring freedom. The first thing, staying silent is not going to get there. The president, if he wants to be the leader of the free world, there's many actions he can do. He can create greater sanctions. He could create the internet to have to make it go there. And for anyone who wants to try to say they debunked that, we're America. We're the home of the Silicon Valley. There is no problem we cannot solve, and especially if it comes to the idea of providing people freedom of speech. There are so many more actions to take. We want the president to start those actions.
Yes. No, I would like to ask Mario Diaz-Canel, please. Okay, I will ask in Spanish, please, for our viewers and I think other people want. Quería preguntarle, bueno, ¿cuál sería el siguiente paso? La congresista María Elvira estaba hablando de que está corriendo, o sea, está pasando el tiempo, y cuál sería el siguiente paso de la administración no responder a los llamados de los congresistas de la comunidad cubana-americana también. Y la otra pregunta, el papel de la prensa independiente estas últimas semanas, o sea, hace muchos años viene reforzándose, pero desde el 11 de julio el papel de la prensa independiente en Cuba ha sido crucial para denunciar lo que está pasando. Entonces, quería saber si existe o existirá el apoyo del Congreso a las personas que están denunciando desde Cuba, a esos periodistas independientes que incluso todavía hay algunos encarcelados, si cuentan con el apoyo de los congresistas y del Congreso de Estados Unidos.
Sí, de nuevo, pregunta muy importante. Número uno, aquí está el líder republicano de la Cámara. Él ha estado clarísimo en el primer momento y sigue abogando, y seguimos presionando a este presidente, porque aquí o se pone del lado del pueblo o se mantiene del lado del rey, que no es aceptable. Número uno. Número dos, los que dicen que no hay tecnología para que los cubanos se puedan comunicar en la isla, están viviendo en otro siglo. La tecnología existe del sector privado y también de parte del gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Lo que no existe es el liderazgo del presidente, que hasta ahora no ha querido ayudar. Número tres, la prensa independiente dentro de Cuba. Esencial. Y es esencial ayudarnos a ponerse de parte de ese pueblo, de esa prensa libre, que está tratando de hacer todo lo que puede para que la realidad de Cuba se sepa a través del mundo. Por eso la conectividad es tan importante. Pero vamos a hablar ahora de la cuestión de la solidaridad. En estos momentos, cuando sabemos lo que está ocurriendo en Cuba, no solamente es que el presidente no está actuando de una forma positiva, no solamente es que está escuchando a los más fuertes aliados de los intereses del rey, que han sido aliados de los intereses del rey por décadas, ¿no? Pero, por ejemplo, radio y televisión que va hacia la isla, uno diría, bueno, ahora es el momento de incrementar, ¿no?, las transmisiones de radio y televisión Martí a la isla. Este presidente, el presidente Biden, está recomendando recortar, destruir a radio y televisión Martí con los recortes de presupuesto. Enmiendas bipartidistas que nosotros, un grupo de nosotros habíamos presentado, bipartidistas, para ayudar a que, de nuevo, que los cubanos se puedan comunicar, que las difusiones de radio y televisión entren a la isla. El liderazgo de la señora Nancy Pelosi, del presidente del comité, son hombres, son personas, ahí está para verlo. El presidente del comité de reglamento, McCarthy, rehusar que esas enmiendas ni se pudiesen discutir en el pleno de la Cámara. Así que esto está muy claro, por eso lo seguimos diciendo todos nosotros. Aquí no hay confusión, aquí no hay gris, aquí o se está de parte del pueblo, del lado del pueblo de Cuba, o se está del lado del reino. Hasta ahora está muy claro. El presidente Biden ha apostado, se ha puesto del lado de los intereses del reino en Cuba. Pero gracias a Dios existe Kevin McCarthy, estos miembros del Congreso y otros, y existe ese valiente pueblo cubano y el exilio cubano. Una palabra de profunda admiración, pero profundo agradecimiento al exilio cubano. Los cubanos en Cuba no se van a cansar, el exilio no se va a cansar, y que conste, nosotros tampoco tenemos que seguir presionando a este presidente a ver si se despierta y abandona los intereses del reino y se pone a la...
Mario, ¿qué opinión le merece el nombramiento de Ricardo Zúñiga otra vez en el Departamento de Estado? Porque ha manifestado una red de preocupación por este sentido.
Mira, ¿cuál es el dicho ese que existe en todos los idiomas? En inglés, birds of a feather flock together. En español, dime con quién andas.
y te diré quién eres. No hay nada más que hay que decir.
¿Hay alguna fecha para que se reúnan ustedes, María Elvira, con el presidente Biden? Les ha dado el Departamento de Estado, el presidente ha dicho en muchas ocasiones que los cubanoamericanos son los mejores representantes del pueblo cubano, pero ustedes, tanto Mario como usted, representan al pueblo cubanoamericano, los hemos electo para representar y ser la voz del pueblo cubanoamericano en el Congreso.
Por muchas ocasiones le hemos pedido, por favor, vamos a tener una reunión. El líder McCarthy me ha enviado una carta. El presidente Biden se niega, no ha llamado a ti, ni a mí, ni a Mario. Okay. Así que no está reuniendo, no se ha reunido con nosotros, los líderes, de verdad, elegidos aquí de Miami. No hemos escuchado ninguna palabra. Hemos tenido, yo creo, ocasión para hablar con el Departamento de Estado, pero de verdad, la información que nos dan a nosotros se puede coger en cualquier lugar. Así que no hay nada que no se, lo han dicho el Departamento de Estado, que ya lo sabían ya antes. Y también las preguntas que nosotros le preguntamos a ellos, no responden. Cuando le preguntamos si ellos consideran que el gobierno es legítimo o ilegítimo, se negaron a contestar. Así que no, el presidente Biden se está reuniendo con gente que yo creo que piensa como él, y también que piensan con la gente que está rodeando el presidente, le está avisando al presidente sobre este tema. Pero no quiero escuchar, de verdad, las personas que son elegidas son representantes del pueblo aquí en el exilio, y también yo creo que también en lo que desea el pueblo cubano en Haití.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.